Hello friends, let us discuss the Hindu newspaper for 12th of July 2020. So, this is an interview in today's newspaper of former National Security Advisor Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon, and he has thrown some interesting insights on the ongoing India-China's tussle in the eastern Ladakh. So, Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon has said that India and China need a full reset of their relations, and we are still in a crisis. What he means by a full reset of relations is that the terms on which the disengagement is taking place is highly problematic for India, because India is emerging as a weak negotiator. Now, since India and China are disengaging on mutual terms and both are disengaging at an equal level, it is giving an impression that India also did some kind of aggression into Chinese territory, which is not the case. It was only China that actually aggressed into India. But the kind of terms that are being reached between both the countries is giving an impression that both the countries did a wrong and now both of them are correcting it. So the NSA has said that these terms are dangerous and they are setting a precedent which is a bad precedent. It is akin to taking 2 steps forward and negotiating 1 step back. So it is a strategy that China has also adopted in the East China Sea and South China Sea, where it first it takes 2 steps forward, it aggresses into someone's territory, and then after a while it shows someone that is the fait accompli, and later on it takes 2 steps forward and then negotiates 1 step back. So if we are agreeing to a similar kind of arrangement, no matter how temporary it is, all these temporary arrangements tend to become relatively permanent. This is what the NSA has said. And in this particular case, the definition of the line of actual control is being changed. This is what the NSA has said. And all this started with Doklam in 2017, where we negotiated withdrawals by both the sides from the face-off point. The Chinese then proceeded to establish a very strong permanent presence on the plateau, leaving the face-off point itself free. So it is a strategy adopted by China, in which China first of all occupies a controversial area and later on leaves only a part of it but continues to occupy a significant portion of the occupied area. And the country with which it has entered into a negotiation falls into the trap of believing that China has entered into a negotiation, and since China is now a very big economic and military power, the other country starts believing that it has led China into a negotiation, which is not the correct strategy. So this strategy is being applied on India now, and the NSA has said that the only way out or the only thing that India can do at this point in time is its own self-strengthening, economically as well as militarily. So it's a very enlightening interview in which the NSA has shared his insights on the Chinese strategy. In another news, the Prime Minister has said that there is no room for complacency in COVID-19 fight, and the priority is being given to monitoring and containment. So he was speaking after attending a COVID-19 review meeting with Union Home Minister Amit Shah, Health Minister Mr. Harshvardhan, and senior government officials. He also appreciated the manner in which the pandemic had been contained in Delhi. Although it has not been fully contained, but he praised the manner in which it was being contained. He said that the priority was being given to close monitoring and containment in regions where the infection rate is high. He also appreciated the efforts of the center and the state and the local authorities in containing the pandemic in Delhi, and directed that a similar approach be adopted by the government of the neighboring states for containment in the entire national capital region. As of now, there are 2,83,407 active cases, and till now more than 8,49,788 cases have been reported in India. So the recovery rate is a healthy greater than 62%, but the states and the center and the health authorities should work consistently to improve this particular rate so that the number of deaths can be brought down. Till now, around 22,683 people have died in India from COVID-19, and this number is increasing day by day, because yesterday, in one day alone, 27,175 new cases were reported in the country. So that makes a total of 1 lakh cases in just 4 days. So that shows that the number of infections have been increasing marginally, and it has been increasing dramatically. The states as well as the medical college hospitals designated as centers of excellence were reminded by the Indian Council for Medical Research and the All India Institute of Medical Sciences that indiscriminate use of investigational therapies may cause more harm than good. It added that the ICMR had strongly recommended that the focus of COVID-19 clinical management should continue to remain an oxygen therapy. Right? So this was the news. Also, in another news, the Drug Controller General of India, that is the DCGI, has cleared itolizumab, a drug used to treat severe chronic plaque psoriasis, for restricted emergency use in COVID-19 care. It is the first novel biological therapy to be approved anywhere in the world for treating patients with moderate to severe COVID-19 complications. The DCGI nod for the repurposed drug is based on the results from the successful conclusion of a randomized controlled clinical trial at multiple hospitals in Mumbai and New Delhi. And the decisions comes as the Health Ministry said that the available evidence for remdesivir, that is another drug, suggests that it may decrease the time for clinical improvement when used in moderate to severe cases and has no benefits in terms of reduced mortality. So this is a step, although it has been released after a controlled clinical trial, but it has shown some promising signs amid the reports of World Health Organization that a full-fledged vaccine may be at least 6 to 9 months away. In another news, Reserve Bank of India Governor Mr. Shaktikanta Das has warned that the economic fallout from COVID-19 pandemic would likely result in an increase in bad loans across the banks, and added that a recapitalization plan was urgently needed to ensure financial stability. So after the lockdown induced by the COVID-19 pandemic, the economic system of the entire world is in a free fall, and the governor has said that the global financial crisis of 2008-9 and the pandemic had dispelled the notion that tail risks to the financial system would materialize only rarely. So the risks are real, and he also stated that the economy had started showing signs of getting back to normalcy. However, he cautioned that the medium-term outlook is uncertain and depends on the COVID-19 curve. So it all depends on the curve that this particular disease is taking. He also said that policy action for the medium term would require a careful assessment of how the crisis unfolds. Building buffers and raising capital will be crucial, not only to ensure credit flow, but also to build resilience in the financial system. He also pointed to stress points that require constant regulatory and policy attention, and he also cited the redemption pressure on non-banking finance companies and mutual funds as a key concern. He said that mutual funds have emerged as a major investors in market instruments issued by non-banking finance companies, which is why the development of an adverse feedback loop and the associated systemic risk warrants timely and targeted policy interventions. So increasing the share of bank lending in NBFCs and the continuing crunch in market-based financing faced by the NBFCs and housing finance companies also need to be watched carefully. On the questions of whether India needs a resolution corporation, he said that there is a lack of mechanism to address bank failures in India, and he also cited the case of Yes Bank. to stress the need for a legislatively mandated resolution corporation. So he stressed that there should be a resolution corporation, but it should come by an act of parliament. So just like in the case of Yes Bank, we tried for a market-based resolution, and when that did not materialize, we, without adversely impacting the balance sheet of any participating bank, worked out a public-private partnership. And a resolution corporation was also part of the Financial Responsibility and Deposit Insurance Bill, that is the FRDI bill, that the centre withdrew following depositors' concerns over a controversial ball-in clause. So this particular thing tells us about three things. First, that the economy has suffered drastically because of the lockdown. Second, there are green shoots in the economy is getting back to normalcy. And number three, that the RBI governor is advocating a resolution corporation which is statutory in nature and established by an act of parliament, so that bank failures can be addressed properly. In another news, whether the COVID-19 risk is airborne or not, the scientists have told the World Health Organization to revise its guidelines to include airborne and droplet infection as possible scenarios for COVID-19 spread. But do the scientists actually believe that COVID-19 can be airborne? Various scientists at the International Laboratory for Air Quality and Health, WHO, and Queensland University of Technology, Brisbane in Australia have appealed to the medical community and the relevant national and international bodies to recognize the potential for airborne spread of COVID-19. According to these scientists, there is a significant potential for inhalation exposure to viruses in microscopic respiratory droplets. So the droplets that are released when someone coughs or sneezes, it can spread the virus, saliva and mucus. So through saliva and mucus, the virus can be spread. And also there is a possibility of airborne spread, and airborne spread happens through tiny particles which are possibly produced by talking and are suspended in the air for longer, and they travel further. So the risks are actually real, and the scientists for this particular study relied heavily on several retrospective studies conducted after the SARS-CoV-1 pandemic, that is in the year 2002-2003, when the severe acute respiratory syndrome or coronavirus 1 was spread in 2002-2003. The scientists demonstrated that airborne transmission was the most likely mechanism explaining the spatial pattern of infections. So the retrospective analysis has shown that in a particular study, in their review of records from a Chinese restaurant, they observed no evidence of direct or indirect contact between the third parties. So all this suggests that there is a possibility of airborne spread of COVID-19, and in this particular context, the World Health Organization does need to revise its guidelines. On the explained page, there is an analysis of a new proposal by the Kuwait National Assembly. So the Kuwait National Assembly is discussing a proposal whereas they want to reduce the number of non-Kuwaitis living and working in Kuwait. So at present, the composition of Kuwait includes 30% of the indigenous Kuwaitis and 70% of foreigners. So there is a proposal in Kuwait National Assembly to reduce the share of foreigners in the country's population to 30%. There is a proposal to reduce this 70% to 30%. And in this plan, the Indians should not exceed 15% of Kuwaiti citizens. And while other nationalities like Egyptians, Bangladeshis and Filipinos, among others, must not exceed 10% of the Kuwaitis. The head of the Parliamentary Human Resource Development Committee in Kuwait is pushing for a drastic reduction in the number of expatriates. The speaker also believes that although such drastic measures are impossible, everyone appears to agree in principle in Kuwait that the proportion of foreigners in the population must be reduced. So this is not a good news for India, which has so many people living and working in Kuwait. The speaker in Kuwait has said that he and other members of parliament would submit a new draft law aimed at binding the government to gradually reduce the number of expatriates. The Kuwait's Prime Minister has said that the ideal population structure is to have 70% Kuwaitis and 30% non-Kuwaitis. India's Ministry of External Affairs, reacting to this particular proposal, has said that both the countries share excellent bilateral ties which are deeply rooted in people-to-people linkages, and also that Indian community in Kuwait is well regarded in Kuwait and also elsewhere in the Gulf region, and their contributions are well recognized. So the Indian administration has shared its concerns with Kuwait, and India is expecting that Kuwait's decisions will take this particular thing into account. So this will be a big news for India, and although it was in the works for some years now, on the lines of Nitakat law in Saudi Arabia, where the number of expatriates was being limited drastically, it has been necessitated due to the COVID-induced lockdown and economic crisis. So it remains to be seen whether this proposal attains the form of a law which will lead to millions of Indians coming back to India from Kuwait. In a good development for India, the 2018 Tiger Census of India has achieved a Guinness World Record of being the world's largest camera trap wildlife survey. So in this particular fourth cycle of the All India Tiger Estimation in 2018, around 2,967 tigers, which are around 75% of the global tiger population, were counted, and the Guinness World Record has been set for the use of the largest number of camera trap in the particular census. So according to the Guinness World Record website, the fourth edition of the survey was the most comprehensive to date in terms of both resources and data amassed, and the camera traps were placed in 26,838 locations across 141 different sites and surveyed an area of 1,21,337 square kilometers, which is the largest till date anywhere around the world. In total, the camera traps captured 3,48,58,623 photographs. That is, around 3,50,00,000 photographs were taken of leopards, and the remainder were some native. So this is a world record, and the Union Environment Minister, Mr. Prakash Javadekar, has tweeted that this is a moment of pride for India, and we will continue to shine, and this is an example of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliant India. So this is a significant news after the news that the number of tigers has significantly increased. So there is a Project Tiger especially for tiger, and the government is paying so much attention to preserve tiger because tiger is a keystone species. A keystone species is one which plays a very, very important role in the food cycle. So tigers are placed at such a position in the food cycle that if one tiger dies, the food cycle is disturbed drastically. That is why India has taken various steps in the last 40 years to save the tigers in India. So that is the analysis of The Hindu of 12th of July 2020. Thank you for watching.